Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad, and I am so glad to be with you in another week, in another episode of the podcast. And it's, we are still in the state shutdown. We are still in the national and world emergency with the COVID-19. And, with my podcast, I do talk about current events often, when I think it's necessary or relevant to message out. However, my content is what I like to think of as evergreen, meaning it is always relevant, it's always on time, so that if you listen to the show in 2020 or you listen to the show in 2022, then the information and the content will always be relevant. And, right now we have a very unique and specific challenge facing us that we're confronted with. And so we have to manage. And I want to be current and share information and ideas that can help us all maintain our health and safety during this time, maintain our mental wellness during this time, and to also give us things to think about for potentially next time. If we survive this time, once this time passes, that we can be prepared and be proactive, so that if we are confronted with such crisis, with such emergency, then we will not kind of be on our back foot, that we would already be prepared. And so to that end, and thinking about having evergreen content that is always relevant, always appropriate, I want to share some ideas or some lifestyle pivots that may be or will be beneficial if we would employ these. Then when such emergency or crisis comes, then, as I said, then we'd be ready. And as this particular crisis, national emergency came, I have felt very, very little anxiety. I've felt very little concern or fear. I'm doing what the state is requiring in terms of limiting travel, except for what is absolutely necessary, following my employer's instructions, and maintaining the safe distance from others. And I think about my family, who I don't get to see every day, who I've refrained from visiting, as a protection for them. I have not been tested. We don't know if you have it or not. Even, as I said last time, even the tests that are being processed aren't necessary. The tests that are being administered are not necessarily being processed. So we really don't know who has it and who doesn't. And, some leaders have advised us to conduct ourselves as if we have it, or conduct ourselves as if others have it. And so to be proactive and to protect ourselves in that way. So I think about my family and those who I care about, and I wish that they too are observing what the state is asking us to do to maintain our safety. But one thing that I know sets me apart, sets me in a somewhat different position than maybe my family, colleagues, friends, is I have been practicing a lifestyle for years now that is preparation for a time such as this. And I am so grateful to have had the training that I've had, so that in a time where there may be a food shortage, then that doesn't come as a shock. It doesn't come as an extreme emergency, because as a Muslim, it is incumbent upon us, and it is a principle in my faith, to fast. And at least once a year, the Muslims take a month where we do not consume food or beverage during daylight hours. But to take it even further, in particular, and those of you who listen to the podcast, you know that I am a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam. And so his instructions to us in terms of our dietary regimen is actually to eat one meal a day. So even during the Ramadan fast, that isn't such an interruption in my daily eating habit, because we are already trained to eat one meal a day. The difference in this case during Ramadan is that we're not drinking anything during the day. So there's no coffee, there's no tea, there's no water. So the idea of abstaining from food, or fasting, or a 2 or 3 day, 4-day fast, it isn't to know that, you know, we have to ration food, or we would have to limit our intake. That's something that, it's already in the training. And so you just revert back to what you know. It's like muscle memory. You know, they say, you never forget how to ride a bike. As soon as you get on it, you just, you just get to it. You start pedaling. And so it's the same thing with this. Having had this lifestyle for over 20 years now, the idea of having to rush out to the grocery store to clear the shelves doesn't occur to me. I just want to make sure I always have what I need, especially in terms of the perishable fruits and vegetables. But there's no urgency to rush out because there's going to be a lack of food, or there's going to be a food shortage in my home. And I've, encouraged and trained my children and brought them up in the same way, so that they too can have some discipline around their eating habits, so that they can be trained for a time when they can go with less, or would go with less, and actually to have a lifestyle or a nutritional habit that can sustain good health. So also, in a time like this, they say, those who are most at risk are those who have, medical issues such as diabetes, heart disease, emphysema, asthma, and certainly smokers. And obviously, smoking is a big attack on our health, as is, being a frequent user of alcohol, a frequent user of tobacco in any form, and in addition to that, drug use. So just having a quote clean lifestyle where the body hasn't or isn't being insulted on a daily basis or a regular basis, your body is able to withstand because your body is healthy. There's no there's not a behavior. There aren't habits that are present that can impede good health. And this is a fortunate blessing, to think that, the body is already prepared to fight off a germ. And, this isn't to say that everyone who has succumbed to this illness has had other comorbidities, and certainly having comorbidities, meaning other medical issues, whether it's kidney failure, heart failure, other chronic diseases, they do create the circumstances in the body where the body is in a condition of compromise, but to have a lifestyle that supports and sustains good health, so that when a time like this comes, then we don't have to try to detox, right? There's so many, one line, there's so many people selling detoxes, promoting detox. To have a untoxic lifestyle, if that's a word, untoxic, to have a lifestyle that is not toxic is something that we should think about. And maybe, if you're listening, maybe you're someone who does smoke cigarettes. Maybe you're someone who uses drugs recreationally, or drinks alcohol. Just consider the impact that these behaviors and these habits have on our physical health, and what our health could be if we refrain from these behaviors, so that in such a time as this that comes, then we don't have to think about or have the stress on our minds that I could possibly succumb because my body is not prepared for the insult of a virus or a bacteria that could attack it. Thinking about my body is just not strong or healthy enough to be ahead of this, and to be prepared. I also say, and again, fasting is such a great practice to use. And it's interesting now that in the media, or not just the media, the print media, news shows, Good Morning America, the Today Show, so many people now are talking about this intermittent fasting. And they're also talking about not just the intermittent fasting, they're talking about eating beans and how nutritious and beneficial the beans are, and and how fasting rejuvenates our cells. This is something that many of you known that Muslims do. We fast, we eat our bean pies, we eat our bean soup, we eat our bean burgers. And it's been, colloquial in the Black community that, oh, here go the Muslims with those bean pies. Well, the beans are such a nutritious source for food, and it's a cheap food, but densely packed with nutrients that can help our bodies, give our bodies what it needs. It's high in fiber, which helps regulate our blood sugar. And anything that's high in fiber is good for our bodies, to make sure we have adequate motility, so that any waste is being expelled from our bodies. And I'm not trying to be graphic, but I'm just talking about how the body works and what we can do to maintain the optimal health of our bodies. So the Muslims have been clowned for years about the use of beans. Beans even protect us from radiation. I mean, there's so much, and you can do the research on your own. I may even include a link in the show notes about the benefits of beans, because I want you to take advantage of that, in addition to fasting. Not just physically for our bodies, what fasting can do, makes you light on your feet. It lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your blood sugar. But what it can do for our mental clarity, it helps us think clearer. And we can all do with thinking clear. We could all do with having a little more clarity in our lives. And so now with this intermittent fasting that they're promoting, well, that's something that we do as a daily practice. It's not something that we just institute in our diet just because of weight loss or any other reason. It's just something that we've been trained to practice from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his books, How to Eat to Live, so that we are not eating to die. So, as it's becoming more popular now and it's more acceptable for people to do this, I'm hoping that now what you've heard that the Muslims do, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught, I hope that you'll consider it and incorporate some of this into your lifestyle. But also having the ability to live frugally, not being a shock to the system, it not being a shock to the system to not go to Starbucks or to go to the movies, go to the mall, to go shopping. A time like this where it's interesting that as many companies are forcing their employees now to work from home out of the concern for the high contagion rate for this virus. So now employers are having their employees work from home when possible. Many people are being laid off. But I think about this shelter in place that we're in the country. It is really helping us save money. It's helping us keep dollars in our pockets. Now, obviously, for those who may not be able to work from home, those who are actually laid off, certainly, there's a financial hardship there. So if we do have that kind of hardship because we're laid off, we're not receiving income, we should always have some emergency money stored away, so that when a time comes when we have to really make tough and hard decisions, then we have something to work with. And so, as I said, I'm so grateful to have had this lifestyle for 20 plus years, to be able to live on less, meaning financially, to be able to live on less food-wise, nutritionally, to be comfortable just being still in my home, because I'm comfortable in my home. I like my home. I don't need a lot of entertainment, outside entertainment. I really love my family. I like being around them. So it's not a burden to not be able to rip and run. I mean, this is a time right now that, even though this can be a scary time for the country, there can be a lot of uncertainty, but to be comfortable that you've done what you've needed to do, to have some things squirreled away, even a survival kit, having what you need in your home in case of a power outage, in case of a food shortage, for example, having water in your home, having first aid kits, having flashlights, having what you need in your home in case of a crazy time where there's no power, where you're not cooking your food on your stove, you're using alternative means. It's a very, I'm not going to say comfortable, but it's not insecure, and so I'm just grateful. And so as we're going through this, and maybe you're someone that you may not have the ability, or didn't have the ability, to save money, or you didn't know how to save. Now that we're in this, we're going to come out of this, think about what your next steps should be to have a lifestyle of preparedness, so that you can save money and have money stored away in an emergency, to have your body trained to go without, or to go with much less, to have your body primed to fight off diseases and bacteria, because you are not abusing alcohol, you're not abusing drugs, you're not abusing your lungs, smoking or vaping. You're eating nutritious meals. You're getting physical activity. So think about it. This time is going to pass. I believe that. And, there have been catastrophes. There's been weather-related catastrophes. And the country has really faced some interesting challenges within the last 10 years. And so we see that this country is not immune. There is no safeguard that's going to keep this country or any other from being confronted with challenging times, where the trucks may not be able to get up and down the highway, where you might not be able to get to the supermarket to get the food, where you might not be able to get to work to have a boss pay you. So think about what you can do to create some kind of financial freedom, to have some savings in the bank, and, sure, have an employer, but maybe you want to think about a home-based business. What can you do where you're not dependent on someone else as your employer, but maybe you have your own home-based business and you're offering goods and services at a respectable and honorable rate, so that you can have a means of making a living that is not dependent on other people. So just think about having a lifestyle of preparedness and what that would look like for you. So look at the areas right now in your life And in your household where you're struggling because of this national emergency? Is it financial? Is it with food? Is it with having the right supplies in the house? Are you someone that had to go rush out and get essential things because you didn't already have them in your home? So think about the things that you need now and even take notes, write it down so that once this passes and we get back to whatever is going to be normal, then you can start going down that list and securing those areas so that if or when we should revisit this time or even a time even more dire than now, then you are physically prepared to confront the challenge, you are financially prepared to confront the challenge, and you are mentally prepared to confront the challenge. Think about what a lifestyle of preparedness could look like for you and your family. I'm interested in your questions or comments that you might have about this. Again, I'm going to make sure I include links about the intermittent fasting, the book, How to Eat to Live, and also links to the nutritional benefits of beans. Look, they're cheap, they're easy to make, and they're delicious. And, they are essential for good health. So I hope I've given you some things to think about as now we are forced to be still. And while we are in this period of stillness, I just want you to think about where you are right now, where you would like to be, and what you can do moving forward to ensure you're never in this place again. I want to thank you so much for listening. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@norahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.